Hello everyone, this video tells the story which narrates why begin to go to work in classes that burn no longer the sun. The man involved by attention to her is really interesting story. Your opinion in the comments. Enjoy watching.
My wife started going to work in more inappropriate clothes so that men would pay attention to her. Why do I feel unfulfilled? I have an amazing husband who cherishes me with every breath. I genuinely care for him and have done so for many years. He is incredibly supportive of our household and the kids love him dearly. He's a delightful person to be around, and our neighbors frequently ask for his assistance with anything tech-related. He never shows interest in other women, and doesn't flirt at all. Jason usually satisfies me in bed and gets upset if I don't reach my climax. I know he is an excellent lover because I had several partners before our marriage to compare with, and Jason was the best I'd ever had. However, I realized that my experience was over 25 years old. For the majority of our marriage, the thought of infidelity never crossed my mind until the incident with Alan. Approaching 50 and nearing the empty nest phase, I found myself craving affirmation that I was still an attractive woman from someone other than my spouse. Although Jason always told me I looked more stunning than ever, I could see my reflection breasts that once stood firm now sagged, wrinkles appeared on my cheeks, and I had to color the gray in my hair. My hips, which once fit perfectly into chairs, now spilled over the edges. Makeup and a well-chosen dress could enhance my appearance, but for how long? I began to fantasize about what another lover might offer. I started pondering how I could discreetly meet other men. Occasionally, during intimacy with Jason, I would think of other men, like TV or movie stars, or the new attractive young men at the office. These thoughts excited me. I revamped my work wardrobe with shorter skirts, bras that lifted my chest and left one more button undone on my blouses. Compliments from male colleagues increased, and my wardrobe changes did not go unnoticed. Alan was a pleasant colleague who had flirted with me for years, but I never took it seriously until one day when I felt particularly adventurous. It seemed like a bluff, but when we were alone, he saw through it immediately and locked my office door. The emotions that had been building up for months made my principles spontaneously combust. Without considering the consequences, I passionately and furiously kissed him. Clothes were removed, my desk was cleared, and it all happened swiftly. It was exhilarating. We were lucky not to be caught. We dressed quickly, he left, and I sat in my chair, stunned, before restoring the desk. I used many facial wipes and sprayed air freshener to eliminate the scent of sex. The thrill of what we did was overwhelming, and it took me a good hour to regain my work focus. This supposed one-time affair left us both desiring more. Understanding that our first encounter was too risky, we arranged for a more discreet follow-up. Once again, we found satisfaction without being discovered. However, these secret meetings soon became insufficient. Alan suggested we go on a 2-week cruise together, where we would be isolated with no risk of being seen. I contemplated for a long time how to explain to Jason that I needed to leave for 2 weeks. Perhaps I would use a partial truth, telling him that I required a temporary separation to rejuvenate my middle-aged spirit. I wanted time to contemplate our family's future, socialize, enjoy myself, and have the freedom to explore new relationships. Jason would have the same freedom from me while I was away. After 25 years of marriage and intimacy with only one woman, he might appreciate a little break too. I doubt John will pursue another woman, much less engage in anything while I'm away. He loves me deeply and will likely wait for my return, perhaps expressing some discontent but ultimately accepting my promise not to repeat it. John values our marriage and family too much to risk it, especially considering the financial implications of a potential divorce. Therefore, I am confident he won't take any drastic actions due to my spiritual quest. I am fully committed to returning as a faithful wife after the trip. I eagerly anticipate showering John with affection and intimacy upon my return, believing that 2 weeks of uninhibited passion on a cruise will fulfill my desires and possibly end my affair with Henry. If it doesn't, Henry and I will need to find a safer way to meet, avoiding any contact for several months after I reunite with my husband to protect my future with John, our children, grandchildren, and our retirement together. We will need to be extremely cautious. I need to approach John at the right moment when he is in a good mood. Emma and I had just finished a session that felt somewhat reminiscent of lovemaking. Although Emma made all the right sounds and expressions, it was clear her heart wasn't fully in it. Her feigned excitement almost made me laugh, but she succeeded in bringing me to climax, which seemed to be her goal. As we lay in bed, she decided it was time to address the subject I had been expecting. She began expressing her need to reevaluate her life, including our marriage and her role as a mother. She suggested that a temporary trial separation from her duties might benefit all of us, allowing her to return more committed and refreshed. Despite her attempt to downplay it, I knew she was planning to leave with Henry. Emma claimed it was just a personal time, but it was clear she intended to explore her relationship with Henry without the need for secrecy, all while considering her future with me and our family. Understanding the gravity of the situation, I decided it was essential for the entire family to discuss the matter. I went to the kids' rooms and asked them to join us in the kitchen. Emma seemed shocked and requested to speak with me alone, but I insisted that the children, being old enough to understand, should be involved in the conversation. We all needed to discuss what was happening and what the consequences would be. Despite Emma's request for a private conversation, I went down to the kitchen and made myself a cup of coffee, not offering one to Emma. She appeared to be losing her resolve. I calmly explained that I was aware of her relationship with Henry and her desire to take a break from her responsibilities as a wife and mother to explore it further. Emma looked stunned, attempting to deny the affair by saying Henry was just a friend from work, but it was clear what her true intentions were. I emphasized that this decision would affect the entire family and that we all needed to discuss it openly and honestly. The situation was tense, and we all knew that careful consideration and communication were crucial to navigating this challenging time in our lives. "What are you talking about? I'm just suggesting you take a break and let me neglect my responsibilities as a wife and mother for a while." Well, give you a break, but we'll call it a divorce, not a trial separation or a vacation from marriage." "John, you are overreacting to my words. There is no reason to talk about divorce. It will just be a temporary break. Girls, why do you need your suitcases? Girls, I'm very sorry I couldn't wait. Why don't you talk to your mother while I go get my suitcase?" I went upstairs, but voices were coming from the kitchen. The girls spoke to Emma. "I'm afraid your father has the wrong idea about what I asked." Sarah spoke first. "Be truthful, Mom. We've known for several months what you and your lover are up to." "Well, I have no idea what you're talking about." "Yes, of course," Anna intervened. "We're talking about your Wednesday lunches that turned into quick Wednesday lunches that are about to turn into a 2-week cruise with Roger." "What? You can't know. I mean, I didn't do anything like that. Roger is just someone I have lunch with sometimes." Sarah took the initiative. "Oh, really? The first time you two decided to take your lunch break in your office room, Dad got a call from your office looking for you. You and Roger exceeded your lunch hour. Dad said he had no idea where you were. When you returned home that evening, he made up a story about how he came to pick you up after dinner and didn't find you. You lied and told him you were meeting your boss. It wasn't a lie. It was the honest truth. I was at a meeting with Mr. Johnson. The secretary must have made a mistake. You know she's not the most reliable person in the world. Since when did Roger become your boss in the office? In any case, that's when Dad decided to hire a private detective. We have a lot of videos and photos. It's true, Mom. This man is not nearly as good-looking as our father. You became a cheater in your old age. How dare you talk to your mother like that? How dare you do what you do instead of acting like our mother?" I heard Emma answer with some anger in her voice. "If your father suspected something, why didn't he tell me directly and stop me? He clearly didn't think it was that important." "Mom, you have a ring on your finger that says Dad should never tell you not to have sex with another man. You agreed to forsake all others in your marriage vows. Dad said that if he had stopped you this time with Roger, your desire for another man would have only been temporarily put on hold. By the time you were ready to try again, you would have learned to hide your deception better." Well, he could have said something. He should have said something if it was bothering him that much. It just shows that he doesn't care whether I enjoy another man's innocent attention or not. I don't understand why he suddenly became so jealous. No, Mom, he didn't tell you anything because he needed time to prepare. His lawyer and accountant were working to prevent you from getting your hands on his money in a routine divorce. He didn't want the threat of financial ruin to influence his decision to stay married or not. A few weeks later, he came to us and told us what was happening. He showed us a video. What we saw and heard disgusted us. Anna and I told him we were on his side. Dad explained that modern divorce laws favor the wife no matter what she has done to break her marriage vows. His lawyer and accountant have spent the last couple of months reducing your overall bills. I bet you didn't know that. The education expenses for Eddie and me are now fully covered. This must have cost him a fortune. Where did he get the money from? Oh, I understand now. He knows I won't try to reclaim my college fund. This is downright mean of him, and you two conspired with your father against me, didn't you? No, Mom. It was you and your lover who conspired against our family, trying to either ignore your indiscretions or allow you to destroy us while you ran off with your lover and a big chunk of Dad's money. We were just protecting ourselves, and it takes a lot to cover your actions, sis. Eddie's remark made both of them giggle. And now, girls, I said, coming downstairs with my suitcases. Emma looked shocked. John, maybe we can all calm down and discuss this. I admit that I may have made a big mistake. I really don't want a separation, much less a divorce. I'll tell Henry that I was wrong to want to spend time with him. I'll never see him again, I promise. I never intended to divorce you or move away with Henry. I just wanted to have some fun with someone else. Too little too late, darling. I understand that you and Henry have already paid for 2 weeks on the Love Boat. In my humble opinion, you two really need to enjoy the trip because I expect life will be significantly more difficult for you when you return. What do you mean by this? Firstly, you will have to take care of all the household chores and responsibilities yourself because the girls and I will live in a new apartment. Oh, Dad, which one did we get? Please let it be the one with the hot tub. It was available the day before yesterday when I last checked. We may have to spend a couple of nights in a hotel room until we find out if it's available, but I'm pretty sure we'll get the apartment we want. The girls were joyfully excited. Like I said, secondly, I don't think you'll be here alone. Eventually, Henry will need somewhere to live, Jane told me. Jane, do you know Henry's wife? Our trip shouldn't matter to her. She doesn't care either way. Their divorce is almost finalized. I guess it was Henry who told you about it. The truth is that their divorce was a surprise to Jane when I met her almost 2 months ago. She waited and prepared with us so that she would be ready to respond as soon as you two broke the news. I called her a few minutes ago while I was upstairs. I think Henry is being kicked out of their house now. She said something about her older brother helping her get rid of the trash. He told me that she had already agreed to the divorce and didn't mind us going on a cruise or something. Henry told his wife that he had to go to California for a 2-week internship. A week ago, she clarified with her boss that no training was expected. Did she talk to Mr. Johnson? Yes. Oh yes, what a coincidence. He's your boss too. This brings us to number 3. When you and Henry return from your trip, you won't have to go back to work. Henry's and your boss were waiting for my signal to fire you both. He agreed to wait and in the meantime chose a replacement. He won't do anything like that. Henry and I are valuable collaborators. You and Henry are employees whose actions allow Jane and me to sue your company for allowing inappropriate behavior while on the job. He was very pleased when Jane and I agreed to drop the lawsuit if you were both fired. It shouldn't have been like this at all, Emma cried. No, it was you who should have remained a faithful wife and mother. We were supposed to grow old, retire, and enjoy our grandchildren together. Instead, you decided to alienate your family, significantly reduce the amount of money you would have, and tarnish your reputation beyond repair. John, I can't believe this is happening. She couldn't believe he was treating her so poorly as she thought he loved her. She wondered what else he was planning to do to annoy her. He made it clear that if she contested the divorce, an edited version of her escapades with Henry would be sent to her parents, relatives, co-workers, and neighbors, and it might even end up on a pornography site. Though with Henry's small size, it probably wouldn't be very popular. She couldn't believe it. She loved him and always returned home, just needing some time alone. She believed that in about a month, everything would have returned to normal, and now he was attacking her without reason. She felt that all the years of marriage should be worth some leniency and forgiveness, and that she deserved a second chance. However, he reminded her that she had already received multiple chances every time she chose to meet Henry instead of fulfilling her duties as a wife and mother. To him, their marriage had been worth everything until 3 months ago, when he realized that it meant nothing to her. Her actions had caused him deep pain, leading him to consider drastic measures. If it had only been the two of them, he might have given in to her, but he wanted to set an example for their daughters about what not to do with their future husbands. The idea of not being able to see his girls whenever he wanted helped him come to his senses. Learning from his lawyer that divorces usually favored the wife despite adultery, he was motivated to ensure she and Henry received as little reward and as much punishment as possible. He believed they had done a good job so far. She couldn't just take the kids and leave being their mother. The court would likely grant her custody in a divorce, and she was prepared to charge him with kidnapping if he took them. However, he had already planned for this, postponing all procedures until their younger daughter was old enough to officially state who she wanted to live with. The older daughter had already signed a notarized statement. He acknowledged that she could force the younger daughter to stay with her, but it wouldn't be a pleasant experience for her. The younger daughter, once rude and impulsive, threatened to skip school, experiment with drugs, and engage in inappropriate relationships if she had to stay. If that didn't work, she would claim that Henry was sexually harassing her with her mother's support. They were ready for anything, while she was clearly unprepared. She had thought he would accept the trial separation, be upset, but eventually take her back without harm. She hadn't wanted a divorce, she just wanted him to believe that divorce was too high a price for her brief vacation. Now, she didn't know what to do. He suggested she figure out how to survive with the house and its bills without a regular income. She could sell the house and get half the equity, which might provide enough money until she found a job. As he and the girls were about to leave, the phone rang. It was probably Henry looking for a place to stay. He made it clear not to let Henry use his things except for her, of course. They disappeared before she could respond. She answered the phone, acknowledging that they had been caught. She expressed her frustration that things weren't going as Henry had promised, and regretted believing his nonsense. Henry reminded her that she had attacked him in her office, and although he might have been tempted, it was her actions that led to their situation. There was no use arguing now. We needed to decide what to do to save our marriages and jobs. He asked if he could come over because he had been kicked out and couldn't afford a motel. Although it didn't matter much now, he asked me to hurry up as he needed to get some sleep. Maybe tomorrow we could figure out a way to at least save our jobs. He asked if I could pick him up because he didn't have his car keys and didn't want to face his wife again that night. That night marked the last time we were together as a family before the divorce hearing was scheduled. Lydia disappeared, and the house was quickly sold. She took her half of the capital and all our savings and checks, possibly out of spite. I wasn't too worried because most of our property had gone towards prepaying for the girls' college. My share of the house amounted to about $20,000. We had taken out a home equity loan a few years ago to build a back deck and patio, so our equity at the time of sale was lower than it had been before. I used the money from selling the house to replenish our emergency fund, which I had used to fund the kids' college expenses. With my income and no alimony, I didn't really need the money in the end. Due to Lydia's actions, I decided to wait a year and proceed with the divorce due to her absence, which would prevent her from coming back later for money or custody. I was not interested in her return. Roger surprisingly stayed in the area. I heard that he found a low-paid job and lives modestly on his own. Em recently told me that she is engaged to one of her divorced neighbors but is in no rush to marry. She had learned her lesson and was cautious about repeating past mistakes. The girls and I are doing well now. They are both in college. Alicia graduates next year, and Edie could graduate in 3 years, although she is considering joining the Marines. The girls keep in touch with their mother on Facebook but do not share information about me with her or vice versa as I requested. I still work at my old job and have a friend with benefits who is a divorced school teacher. Now that my girls have moved out and her son is heading off to college, she'll probably move in with me soon. We didn't talk about marriage, but we did discuss commitment and exclusivity. My sex life has never been better. She takes pills and we use condoms. I have to be cautious considering my past experience with Lydia. Lydia knew that the girls were willing to keep in contact with her, but they said their father did not want to give or receive information about her. It was as if the first 20 years of our marriage meant nothing. During those years, she was a good wife and mother, working hard both at home and at work. Her money, along with mine, went towards maintaining the house, the girls' cars, and all our bills. She contributed enough that she didn't feel guilty about taking the remaining checks and savings. What little was left after I went to great lengths to fund the girl's college in advance was a brilliantly strategic move on my part. How could she dispute that? She didn't think she was such a monster to chase this money, but she wondered how much of a monster she was. Did she deserve all the punishment inflicted on her after 245 months of being a good wife and mother and only 3 months of being a bad one? She didn't believe she deserved everything that happened to her. In fact, it wasn't 3 months of bad behavior, but 3 months of stupidity. Roger wasn't such a great prize. Much of his value lay in the thrill of secrecy and taking risks. Once she faced the consequences, the value of her relationship with Roger dropped to 0. The poor guy wanted to move in with her, claiming she owed him for ruining his marriage. She questioned why she had left the city, realizing she had been an unfaithful wife and a liar. With the photographs as evidence, I felt like everyone knew what I had done. I didn't trust that John wouldn't release the video, adding to my embarrassment in front of people who knew me. Overnight, he transformed into an avenger. When I left, I hoped to start over until John calmed down and considered taking me back. So here I am, waiting. I have a good job in finance for a health insurance company where I used to discuss with clients why they should pay money even if they had insurance. Now, I work at a hospital explaining to people why they should pay the hospital when they have insurance. Fortunately, Mr. Johnson, my former boss, was honest about my abilities and why I was fired. My new boss said he was willing to take the risk of hiring me, but warned that any hint of scandal would be a reason for termination. I have a nice little apartment and don't need much. I don't have much of a social life, unfortunately, spending a lot of time on a special chat site for women who have been dumped for cheating. It's amazing how well I fared compared to some of the women in the chat. I still look good. John knows that I can be a good wife and mother. Does he really want to go through the whole middle-aged dating scene for a new wife? I'll wait a little longer, hoping the girls will finally soften and work on their dad for me. While John was preparing for our divorce, I was preparing for our reconciliation. I spent a lot of time thinking about the good years. It's not difficult, a song, a picture, a smell, a word, and I drift to the land of memories. My heart aches strangely when I do this, and I cry often. I can't believe John doesn't do the same, especially when he's with the girls. How many of his memories with the girls include me? He must miss me. We meant too much to each other for me to stop mattering to him. John, please find that place in your heart that still wants to love me, forgive me, and give me a second chance. I will never betray you again. I was foolish to throw away wonderful years of walking the same path together. I hope he won't be so foolish and will forgive me after such a small misstep.
Hello, it's really interesting story. What do you think? Write comment, put like and subscribe to channel, Instagram and Discord. Good luck!